22. Oh, pause again. Harry, Hermione was tugging at his sleeve, starting at her watch. We have got exactly 10 minutes to get down to the hospital wing without anybody seeing us, before Dumbledore locks the door. Okay, said Harry, wrenching his gaze from the sky. Let's go. The sleepy searched the doorway behind them and down a gently sparkling stone staircase. As they reached the bottom of it, they heard the boys. They planted themselves against the wall and listened. It sounded like Filch and Snape. They were walking quickly along the corridor at the foot of the staircase. Only hope Dumbledore's not going to make difficult. Snape was saying the kids will be performed immaculately as soon as many students returned with the Dementors. This whole back of year has been highly embarrassing. I can't tell you how much I am looking forward to informing the Deathly Prefect that we have got at him last. At the races, they will wanted to interview you, Snape. And once young Harry begs in his right mind, I expect you want to tell the Prefect exactly how you saved him. Harry clenched his teeth. He caught a glimpse of Snape's beacon at he and Filch past Harry and Hermione's hiding place. Their footsteps died away. Harry and Hermione waited a few moments to make sure they were really gone, then started to a long new corridor. Then they heard clicking ahead. Peeves! Harry muttered, grabbing Hermione's wrist. In here! They tore into a deserted classroom to their last first in time. Peeves seemed to be boxing along the corridor in teary splits, laughing his head off. Oh, he's horrible, whispered Hermione, her ear to the door. I bet he is all excited because the Dementors are going to finish Sirius. She checked her watch. 3 minutes, Harry. They waited until Peeves' walking voice had faded into the distance. They slipped back out of the room and broke into a run again. Hermione, what will happen if you don't get back inside before Dumbledore locks the door? Harry panicked. I don't want to think about it, Hermione mouthed, checking her watch again. 1 minute. They had reached the end of the corridor with the hospital wing and chance. Okay, I can hear Dumbledore, said Hermione tensely. Come on, Harry. They crept along the corridor. The door opened. Dumbledore's back appeared. I'm going to lock you in, they heard him saying. It is 5 minutes to midnight, Mr. Granger. 3 turns should do it. Good luck. Dumbledore backed out of the room, closed the door, and took his wand to manically look at. Panicking, Harry and Hermione ran forwards. Dumbledore looked up, and a white smile appeared under the long silver mustache. Well, he said quietly. We did it, said Harry breathlessly. Sirius had gone on Babbitt. Hermione brimmed at them. Well done, I think. He listened intentionally for any sound within the hospital wing. Yes, I think you have gone, too. Get inside. I will lock you in. Harry and Hermione slipped back inside the dormitory. It was empty except for Ron, who was still lying motionless in the end bed. As the lock clicked behind them, Harry and Hermione crept back to under her robes. Next moment, Madame Pomfrey had come striding back to our office. Did I hear the headmaster leaving? Am I allowed to lock after my patients down? She was in very bad mood. Harry and Hermione thought it best to accept it particularly quickly. Madame Pomfrey stood over them. Be sure they ate it, but Harry could hardly swallow. He and Hermione were reading, listening, the nips jangling, and then, as the both took a fourth piece of chocolate from Madame Pomfrey, they heard a distant roar of fury in chorring from somewhere above them. What was that? Said Madame Pomfrey in alarm. Now they could hear angry voice growling louder and louder. Madame Pomfrey was starting up the door. Really? They will wake everybody up. What do you think they are doing? Harry was trying to hear that voice was saying. They were drawing nearer. He must have disappeared. Sirius, we should have left somebody in the room with him. When this gets out, he didn't disappear, said Broad. Now very close at hand, you can approach it from dispatched inside this kettle. This had something to do with Potter. Serious, be reasonable. Harry had been locked up. Bam! The door of the hospital wing burst open. Filch, Snape, and Dumbledore came striding into the watch. Dumbledore alone looking clamp. Indeed, he looked as though he was quite enjoying himself. Filch appeared angry, but Snape was beside himself. Out with it, Potter, he bellowed. What did you do? Professor Snape, shrieked Madame Pomfrey. Control yourself. See here, Snape. Who's responsible? Said Filch. This door is being locked. We just saw the helping it escape. I know it. Snape howled, pointing at Harry and Hermione. His face was tense. Spit was flying from his mouth. Calm down, man, Filch barked. You are talking nonsense. You don't know Potter, shaking Snape. He did it. I know he did it. That will do. Serious, said Dumbledore quickly. Think about what are you saying. This door has been locked since I left 10 minutes ago. Madame Pomfrey, have these students left their beds? Of course not, said Madame Pomfrey, bristling. I have been with them ever since you left. Well, there you have it, Sirius, said Dumbledore calmly. Unless you are suggesting that Harry and Hermione are able to be in two places at once, I am afraid don't see any point in troubling the future. Snape stood there, seething, starting from Filch, who looked thoroughly shocked at his behavior, to Dumbledore, whose eyes were twinkling behind his glasses. Snape wheeled about, broke wishings behind him, and stormed out of the wand. Fellow seems quite a bunch, said Filch, starting after him. I'd watch out for him, if I were you, Dumbledore. Oh, he is not ambulance, said Dumbledore quickly. He is just a physicist as Severus disappointed. He is not the only one, puffed Filch. The Daily Purpose is going to have a field day. We had better nurse the sleeping thrush on our fingers yet again. All witness now is for the story of that hypocrite's escape to get out, and we will be laughing stock. Well, I'd better to go and not feed the mischief. And the Dementors, said Dumbledore, they will be removed from the school, I trust. Oh yes, they will have to go, said Filch, running his fingers effectively, clutched his hair. Never dreamed they did attempt to administer the kids on an innocent boy, completely out of control. No, I will have them back to Azkaban tonight. Perhaps we should think about getting dragons at the school and chance. Hagrid would like it, said Dumbledore, with a swift smile at Harry and Hermione, as he and Filch left the dormitory. Madame Pomfrey hurried to the door and locked it again, muttering angrily to herself. She headed back to her office. There was a loud moan from the other end of the ward. Ron had woken up. They could see him sitting up, rubbing his head, looking around. What happened? He gasped. Harry, why are you here? Where's Sirius? Where's Lupin? What is going on? Harry and Hermione looked at each other. You explain, said Harry, helping himself to some more chocolate. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione left the hospital wing at noon next day, it was so quite old and an almost deserted castle. The switching head and the end of the exams meant that everyone was taking full advantage of another housemaid visit. Neither Ron or Hermione felt like going. However, so they and Harry wandered into the grounds, still talking about the extraordinary events of the previous night and wondering where Sirius and Buckbeak were now. Sitting near the lake, watching the giant squid waving its talons lazily above the water. Harry lost the thread of the conversations as he walked across to the opposite bank. The stars had glowed towards him from there just last night. A shadow fell across them, and they looked up to see a very blue-eyed Hagrid, mopping his sweaty face with one of his temple-sized handkerchiefs, his wavy face with one of his temple-sized, and beaming down at them. No one shouldn't feel happy after what happened last night, he said. I mean, Black escaped again and everything, but guess what? What? They said, pretending to look serious. Beaky, he escaped. He is free. Been celebrations all night. That is wonderful, said Hermione, giving Ron a revolting look because he looked as such he was close to laughing. Yeah, can't I tighten him up properly? Said Hagrid, gazing happily out over the grass. I was worrying this morning. Thought he might kidnap Professor Lupin in the grounds, but Lupin says he never ate anything last night. What? Said Harry low-key. Quickly. Bimley, haven't you heard? Said Hagrid, his smile filling a light low. He lowered his voice, even thought there was nobody in sight. Snape told me all the Slytherins this morning. Thought everyone did know about you. Professor Lupin's a werewolf. See? And he was loose in the grounds last night. He is packing now. Of course. He is packing? Said Harry, alarmed. Why? Leaving, isn't he? Said Hagrid, looking surprised that Harry had to ask. Rezanc's first thing this morning. Say he can't risk it happen again. Harry scrambled to his feet. I'm going to see him, he said to Ron and Hermione. But if he's regrets, doesn't sound like there's anything we can do. I don't care, I still want to see him. I will make you back here. Lupin's office door was open. He had already packed most of his things. The Grindylows empty tank stood next to his battered old suitcase, which was open and nearly full. Lupin was bending over something on his desk and only looked up. When Harry knocked at the door, I saw you coming, said Lupin, smiling. He pointed to the parch he had been poring over. It was the martyr's map. I just saw Hagrid, said Harry, and he said you did resing. It's not true, it is. I am afraid it is, said Lupin. He started opening desk drawers and checking out the contents. Why? Said Harry. The Ministry of Magic don't think you were helping Sirius, do they? Lupin crossed to the door and closed it behind Harry. No, Professor Dumbledore managed to convince me that I was trying to save your life. Besides, that was the final straw for Sirius. I think the loss of the Order of Merlin hit him hard. So he unimaginably last sleep that I am a werewolf this morning at breakfast. You are not leaving just because of that, said Harry. Lupin smiled wearily. This time tomorrow, the oath will start arriving from his parents. They will not want a werewolf teaching their children. Harry, and after last night, I see that point. I could have beaten any of you. That must never happen again. You are the best defense against the dark arts teacher we have ever had, said Harry. Don't go. Lupin shook his head and didn't speak. He carried on emptying his drawers. Then, while Harry was trying to think of a good motion to make him stay, Lupin said, From what the headmaster told me this morning, you saved a lot of lives that night, Harry. If I am proud of anything, it is how much you have learned. Tell me about your Patronus. How did you know about that? Said Harry, distraught. What else could have driven the Dementor's back? Harry told Lupin what happened. When he did finish, Lupin was smiling again. Yes, your father was always stuck when he drank too much. He said, you guessed it right. That is why he called him progressive. Lupin threw his last few books into his case, closed the dark desk drawers and turned to look at Harry. Here, I brought this from the shaking shack last night, he said, handing Harry back the invisibility cock. And he had then held out the martyr's map too. I am no longer your teacher, so I don't feel guilty about giving you this back as well. It is not easy to me, and I cherish you, Ron and Hermione, we finished use for it. Harry took the map and grinned. You told me Moony, Wormtail, Puff, and Prongs would have wanted to lure me out of school. You said they did have thought it was funny. And so we would have done, said Lupin, and reached down to the closest case. I have no intentions in saying that James would have been highly disappointed if his son had never found any of the secret passage out of the castle. There was a knock on the door. Harry hastily subverted the marauder's map and invisibly cocked into his pocket. It was Professor Dumbledore. He didn't look surprised to see Harry there. Your carriage is at the gates, Remus, he said. Thank you, headmaster. Lupin picked up his old suitcase and the empty Grindylow tank. Well, goodbye, Harry, he said, smiling. It had been a real pleasure teaching you. I feel sure we will meet again sometime. Headmaster, there's no need to see me to the gates. I can manage. Harry had the impression that Lupin wanted to leave as quickly as possible. Goodbye then, Remus, said Dumbledore soberly. Lupin shifted the Grindylow tank slightly so that he and Dumbledore could shake hands. Then, with a final nod to Harry and a swift smile, Lupin left the office. Harry sat down in his vacation chair, staring gloomily at the floor. He heard the door close and looked up. Dumbledore was still there. Why so miserable, Harry? He said quietly. You should be very proud of yourself after last night. It didn't make anything difference, said Harry bitterly. Pettigrew got away. Didn't make any difference, said Lupin quickly. It made all the difference in the world. Harry, you have uncovered the truth. You saved an innocent man from a terrible fate. Terrible, something staged in Harry's memory. Greater and more terrible than ever before. Professor Chansley's predictions. Professor Dumbledore, yesterday, when I was having my defense exam, Professor Chansley went very, very strange. Indeed, said Dumbledore. Stranger than usual, you mean? Yes, her voice went all deep and her eyes rolled and she said Voldemort's favorite was going to set out to return to him before midnight. She said the secret would help him come back to power. Harry started up at Dumbledore, and then she sort of became normal again, and she couldn't remember anything he did said. Was she making real predictions? Dumbledore looked immediately impressed. Do you know, Harry? I think she might have been, he said thoughtfully. Who did have thought it? That brings her total of real predictions up to 2. I said over her pay rise. But Harry looked at him and gasped. How could Dumbledore take this so calmly? But I stopped Sirius and Professor Lupin killed Pettigrew. That makes it my fault if Voldemort comes back. It does not, said Dumbledore quietly. Hasn't your experience with the Time Turner taught you anything, Harry? The consequences of the actions are always so complicated, so different. That predicting the future is a very difficult business indeed. Professor Chansley, bless her, is living proof of that. You did a very noble thing in saving Pettigrew's life. But if he helps Voldemort back to power, Pettigrew owes his life to you. You have sent Voldemort a debauchery who is in your debt. When one wizard saves another wizard's life, it creates a certain bond between them, and I am much mistaken if Voldemort went his servant in the depth of Harry Potter. I don't want a bond with Pettigrew, said Harry. He betrayed my parents. This is magic is the speech. It's a smart impetuously, Harry. But trust me, the time may come when you will be very glad you saved Pettigrew's life. Harry couldn't imagine when that would be. Dumbledore looked as such he knew that Harry was thinking. I knew your father very well, both at Hogwarts and later. Harry, he said gently, he would have saved Pettigrew too. I am sure of it. Harry looked up at him. Dumbledore would laugh. He could tell Dumbledore. Last night, I thought it was my dad who conjured my Patronus. When I saw myself across the lake, I thought I was seeing him. easy mistake to make, said Dumbledore softly. I expected you trying to hearing it. But you do like extra contractly like James? Expect for your ears, you have your mother's eyes. Harry shook his head. It was stupid thinking it was him. He muttered. I mean, I knew he was dead. You think the dead we have loved ever truly leave us? You thinking what we don't recycle them more clearly than ever in times of great trouble? Your father is alive in you, Harry, and shows himself most painfully when you have need of him. How else could you produce that particular patroness? Proust wrote again last night. It took a moment for Harry to realize what Dumbledore had said. Sirius, tell me all about how they became inhumation last night, said Dumbledore, smiling. Unexpectedly excitement, not least, keeping it quiet from me. And then I remembered the most usual from your patronus took, when it charged Mr. Malfoy down and your predict match against Ravenclaw. So did you see your father last night, Harry? You found him inside yourself. And Dumbledore left the office, leaving Harry to his very confused thoughts. Nobody at Hogwarts knew the truth of what had happened the night that Sirius, Buckbeak, and Pettigrew had vanished, except Harry, Ron, and Hermione, and Professor Dumbledore. As the end of the term approached, Harry heard many different theories about what had really happened, but none of them came close to the truth. Malfoy was furious about Buckbeak. He was convinced that Hagrid had found a way of smuggling the hippogriff to safety, and seemed outraged that he and his father had been outtricked by the gamekeeper. Perseus Lee, meanwhile, had much to say on the subject of Sirius' escape. If I manage to get into the ministry, I will have a lot of proposals to make about magical law informations. He told the only person who would listen, his girlfriend, Penelope. Thought the weather was perfect. Thought the atmosphere was so cheerful. Thought he knew they had achieved the near impossible in helping Sirius to freedom. Harry had never approached the end of a school year and word sprints. He certainly wasn't the only one who was so sorry to see Professor Lupin go. The whole of Harry's defense against the dark arts class was miserable about his intentions. Wonder what they will give us next year, said Seamus Finky gloomily. Maybe a vampire, suggested Dean Thomas hopefully. It wasn't only Professor Lupin's departure that was batching on Harry's mind. He couldn't help thinking a lot about Professor Stanley. Predictions. He kept wondering where Pettigrew was now, but there he had thought subconsciously with Voldemort yet. But the thing that was lowering Harry's spirits most of all was the process of returning to the Dursleys, for maybe half an hour, a cautious half hour. He had believed he would be living with Sirius from now on, his parents' best friend. It would have been the next time best thing to having his old father back. And while no news of Sirius was eventually hiding, Harry couldn't help feeling miserable when he thought of the home he might have had, and the fact that it was now impossible. The exam results came out on the last day of term. Harry, Ron, and Hermione had passed every subject. Harry was amazed that he got such potions. He had a such support that Dumbledore had stepped in to stop Snape, the pets, Snape toggling him on purpose. Snape's behavior towards Harry over the past week had been quite alarming. Harry wouldn't have thought it possible that Snape's dislike for him could escape, but it certainly had done. A musical twitched unpleasantly at the corner of Snape's thin mouth every time he looked at Harry, and he was constantly flexing his fingers, as thought itching to placed them around Harry's couch. Harry had got his top grade news, NEETs. Fred and John had scraped a handful of OWLs each. Gryffindor's house, meanwhile, largely thanks to their superb performance in the Quidditch Cup, had won the house championship for the third year running. This means that the end of term feats took place amid precautions of scratch and gold, and that the Gryffindor table was the noisiest of the lot, as everybody celebrated. Even Harry managed to forget about the journey back to the Thursday next day as he ate, drank, talking and laughed with the rest. As the Hogwarts Express pulled out of the station next morning, Hermione gave Harry and Ron some surprising news. "I went to see Professor Miss McGonagall this morning, just before breakfast. I have decided to drop Muggle studies." "But you passed your exam with 320%. said Ron. "I know," said Hermione, "but I can't stand another year like this one. That Tan Turner was driving me mad. I have handed it in. With such Muggle studies and divisions, I'll be able to have a normal timetable again." "I still can't believe you didn't tell us about it," said Ron grumpily. "We are supposed to be your best friend." "I promised I wouldn't tell anyone," said Hermione severely. She looked around at Harry, who was watching Hogwarts disappear from view behind the mountain. 2 whole months before he did see it again. "Oh, cheer up, Harry," said Hermione sadly. "I'm okay," said Harry quickly. "Just thinking about the holidays." "Yeah, I have been thinking about them too," said Ron. "Harry, you have got to come and stay with us. I'll fix it up with Mom and Dad. Then I will call you. I know how to use Fairytone now." "A tablet phone, Ron," said Hermione. "But Natalie, you should take Muggle studies next year." Ron ignored her. "It is the Quidditch World Cup this summer. How about it, Harry? Come and stay, and we are going and see it. Dad can easily get tickets from work." These parables had effect from cheering Harry up a great deal. "Yeah, I bet the Dursleys get pleased to let me come, especially after what I did to Aunt March." Feeling considerably more cheerful, Harry joined Ron and Hermione in several games of exploding snacks, and when the tea trolley arrived, he bought himself a very large lunch, but nothing with chocolate in it. But it was late afternoon before the thing that made him truly happy turned up. "Harry," said Hermione suddenly, peering over his shoulder, "what is the thing outside the window?" Harry started to look outside. Something very small and grey was popping in and out of sight beyond the glass. He stood up for a better look and saw that it was a tiny owl, carrying a letter which was much too big of it. The owl was so small, in fact, that it kept stomping over in the fair buffet display and that its chins did trim. Harry quickly pulled it like a very slowly snitch. He brought it in carefully inside. The owl dropped in letter 1 to Harry's seat and began zooming around their compartment, apparently very pleased with itself for accomplishing its task. Then we kicked to her back with a soft art defensive display foam. Crouchan sat up in his seat, following the owl with the red yellow eyes. Ron noticing this, snatching the owl safely out of harm's way. Harry picked up the letter. It was addressed to him. He ripped open the letter and shook out. "It is from Sirius." "What?" said Ron and Hermione essentially. "Read it aloud." "Dear Harry, I hope this finds you before you reach your aunt and uncle. I don't know whether they are used to owl pots. Buckbeak and I are in hiding. I won't tell you where, in case it falls into the wrong hands. I have some doubts about the owls rechangeably, but he is the best I could find, and he did seem eager for the job. I believe the Dementors are still searching for me, but they haven't a hope of finding me here. I am planning to allow from Marcos to glimpse me soon, a long way from Hogsmeade Woods, so that the security on the castle will be lifted. There's something I never got round on telling you during your brief meeting. It was who sent you the Jeffrey bot. Huh, said Hermione truthfully. See, I told you it was from him. Yes, but he hasn't ingested it. Had she? Had he? Said Ron. Ouch! The tiny owl, now holding happily in his hand, had nibbled out of his finger in what he seemed to think was an effectual way. Crookshanks took the order to the old office for me. I used their name but told them to take a go from Great Notice Bunch number 711. My aunt, please consider it as 30 birthdays worth of presents from your godfather. I would also like to appreciate for the advice I think I gave you. What night last year when you left your uncle's house, I had only hoped to get a glimpse of you before starting my journey, but I think the sight of me alarmed you. I am enlisting something else for you, which I think will make you next year at Hogsmeade Woods more enjoyable. If ever you need me, sing words, your owl will find me. I'll write again soon, serious. Harry looked ejectedly inside the envelope. There was another piece of parchment in there. He read it such quickly and felt suitably as warm and contented as such he would thought like a bottle of hot beer in one go. I, Sirius Beck, Harry paused your godfather. Hereby he gave him a present to be visited Hogsmeade at weekends. That will be good enough for Dumbledore, said Harry happily. He looked back at Sirius' letter. Hang on, there's Fizzy. I thought your friend Ron might like to keep this all, as it's my fault he no longer has a rat. Once I win it, the minute O was still holding it sagely. Keep him? He said instantly. He looked closely at the O for a moment, then, to Harry and Hermione's great surprise, he held him out for Crookshanks to see. What do you reckon? Ron asked the cat. Eventually an owl? Crookshanks peered. That is good enough for me, said Ron happily. He is mine. Harry read it and read the letter from Sirius all the way back into the King's Cross stations. It was still clutched tightly in his hand as he. Ron and Hermione started back, searched the barrier of the platform night and 3 quarters. Harry stopped Uncle Vernon at once. He was standing a good distance for Mr. and Mrs. Weasley, eyeing them supportedly, and when Mr. Weasley hacked Harry in greeting, his words presence about them seemed confirmed. I'll call about the World Cup, Ron yelled after Harry, as Harry bid him and Hermione goodbye. Then, below the trolley bearing his trunk and hat was kicked towards Uncle Vernon, who greeted him in the usual fashions. What is that? He snarled, staring at the envelope. Harry was still scratching his head. If it's another from to sack, you have got another ring. It is not, said Harry cheerfully. It is a letter from my godfather. Godfather? Slopped Uncle Vernon. You haven't got a godfather. Yes, I have, said Harry brightly. He was my mom and dad's best friend. He is convicted murderer, but he has broken out of wizard prisons and he is on the run. He liked to keep in touch with me. Fudge, keep up with my news. Check, I am happy. And grinning broadly at the look of horror on Uncle Vernon's face, Harry set off towards the station's exit, Hedwig riding along in front of him, for what looked like a much better summer than the last.